Hi, welcome to Full Frontal. I'm Samantha B. Celebrating the holiday season during a pandemic may be stressful, but at least, according to the experts, there's one person who's truly safe this Christmas.
Santa has been exempt from this because Santa, among all the good qualities, has a lot of good innate immunity. So Santa's not going to be spreading any infections to anybody.
Oh, thank God. I was worried Santa would spread the virus after his maskless stocking stuffing party. But while the winter is going to be hard for everyone else, at least, and I'm not sure if we've mentioned this on the show recently, this will be leaving office. Unfortunately, along with stealing all the copper wiring in the White House, Trump may spend his last days doing what he does best, making sure nobody in his life ever faces consequences.
In his final days in office, President Trump is reportedly discussing with advisors preemptive pardons for some of his closest allies.
Protecting them means he's protecting himself.
He's hitting two birds with one stone, which was also his favorite childhood game. While Trump is currently considering preemptive pardons for up to 20 allies, he's been abusing his clemency powers since the beginning of his term, back when he still looked hot. So far, most of Trump's pardons and commutations have gone to people with a personal or political connection. Most recently, Trump pardoned former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who lied to the FBI during the Russia investigation. Trump also granted clemency to Flynn's Russia co-stooge Roger Stone, who had been convicted on 7 felony counts. Stone was sentenced to over 3 years in prison and also, judging by the way he dresses, to not pass go and not collect $200. Even when Trump gave pardons to people who deserved them, he still only did it to get photos with famous people. He rightfully gave clemency to Alice Johnson, a first-time nonviolent drug offender, and a posthumous pardon to boxer Jack Johnson, not to be confused with early-out speech singer Jack Johnson, who actually does belong in jail. If only they could catch him. He's barefoot. He is fast. Trump also pardoned Susan B. Anthony, but was actually rejected by her own museum, though that was only because Trump was trying to pardon her for being a Los Angeles 2 and a Seneca Falls 7. But while Trump has weirdly shown clemency to both Susan B. Anthony and the time traveler sent back to kill her, he's now at the end of his term, which means, you got it, it's family pardon palooza.
High on the list is the potential for him to pardon his 3 eldest children and the spouse of one of them, Jared Kushner.
Donald Trump Jr. was investigated by special counsel Robert Mueller for contacts with Russians during the 2016 campaign. But none of his children has been charged with any crime, so it's not clear why Ivanka Trump would need a pardon.
I don't know. Didn't she get charged with impersonating a human being? Yes. Cancel me, Queen. While preemptive pardons may seem crazy, there's actually a fair amount of precedent in our country's history. In 1974, Gerald Ford preemptively pardoned Nixon for all federal crimes he committed or may have committed during his presidency, and George Washington himself actually preemptively pardoned Americans who rebelled after the government put a tax on whiskey. Or as Washington famously said, I don't know, he's so mean to whiskey. It's like, what did whiskey even do? Like, earn your disrespect. Martha! Martha! Are you mad at me? But even more than his kids and his sycophants, the real criminal Trump may want to pardon might have been inside him all along.
We know that the president has privately mused about whether or not he could pardon himself and what that would look like.
It's the big question at the end. Will the president try to do something that's never been done with the pardon power, be a judge in his own case, and pardon himself?
What's worse is he'll definitely start referring to himself as my honor. Trump has claimed he has the absolute right to pardon himself, but with no historical precedent, legal scholars are divided on whether Trump can actually do it or if he'll even attempt it. In fact, the closest a president's ever come to a self-pardon was JFK absolving himself for the Bay of Pigs disaster by going, well, excuse me. Trump may have a lot of reasons to want to pardon. If Biden's incoming DOJ greenlights an investigation, they'll have plenty of potential charges to choose from. Fortunately, even all the self-pardoning in the world can't totally protect the president and his circle. And first of all, presidential clemency doesn't cover state crimes. And secondly, by pardoning someone, Trump may accidentally be opening himself up to more legal danger.
If you pardon Paul Manafort, then he has no ability to refuse to testify. Then Robert Mueller can put him on the stand and say, you now have to testify because you've been pardoned. You can't claim the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination if you don't face any criminal liability. You have to tell us about Donald Trump. So that could be that could backfire on the president.
Honestly, Trump wouldn't even be the first president to use his pardons in a bad way.
One of President Clinton's pardons was his own brother, Roger.
George Herbert Walker Bush pardoned the Iran-Contra figures.
Abraham Lincoln pardoned a man for attempted bestiality.
What's even sadder is Lincoln pardoned that man at the same ceremony where he pardoned the Thanksgiving turkey. Presidential clemency is supposed to correct injustice, which, to be fair, some presidents have actually done. Barack Obama commuted the sentences of hundreds of nonviolent drug offenders. Jimmy Carter preemptively pardoned men who dodged the Vietnam draft. And George H.W. Bush preemptively pardoned his digestive system before vomiting all over the Japanese prime minister. Presidents can use pardons for good, but abusing them doesn't just protect bad people now, it also influences bad people later. When Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon, his official goal was to bring America back together after Watergate, but if Nixon had faced real consequences, it could have made subsequent administrations think twice before abusing their power. That's why, whether or not Trump pardons himself, states still need to investigate him and his allies. It's not about vengeance, it's about restoring our faith in institutions and strengthening the guardrails that have barely held over the last 4 years. Because if we fail to learn from Trump's attempts to defeat our democracy, we'll have no one but ourselves to blame when the next Republican administration comes along to finish the job he started. If you liked this video, hit subscribe and leave a pleasant comment below. Let's ride out the rest of this nightmare year together, okay? Okay? All right.